The alarm bells rang through the United Nations Defense Council building in New York as Admiral Jake Morrison walked quickly down the long white hallway. His black military uniform was neat and pressed, but his face showed worry. Today was different from all the other days since humans had first met aliens 50 years ago. Today, the Caltharian Empire had sent a message that would change everything. Jake pushed open the heavy doors to the main council room. Inside, men and women from every nation on Earth sat around a huge circular table. The room was dark except for the blue glow coming from the holographic projector in the center. Secretary General Lisa Kane stood near the projector with her hands, shaking slightly. General Ryan Clark sat in his chair with his arms crossed, looking angry. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in the corner, watching everything with sharp eyes. "Admiral Morrison," Lisa said when she saw Jake enter the room, "please take your seat. We are about to replay the message from Emperor Vex Thol." Jake sat down in his assigned chair and looked at the holographic projector. The air above it shimmered, and then formed the image of a tall alien creature. Emperor Vex Thol looked like a giant lizard that walked on two legs. His skin was dark green with silver scales. His eyes were bright yellow and seemed to glow in the dim light. When he spoke, his voice was deep and made everyone in the room feel cold. "Primitive humans," the Emperor began, and Jake could hear people around the table breathing harder. "Your species has tried our patience for too long. For 50 years we have watched you spread across the galaxy like a disease. You refuse to pay the taxes we demand. You build weapons when we tell you to stay peaceful. You ask too many questions and do not obey our rules." The hologram moved its long arms as it spoke. Its claws were sharp and caught the light. "We have been kind to you because you are young and stupid, but our kindness has limits. You have exactly 72 of your Earth hours to surrender completely to the Caltharian Empire. You will give us control of all your planets and all your ships. You will pay us everything we ask for. You will do what we say without question." Jake felt his hands make fists under the table. Around him, other council members were whispering to each other in worried voices. But the Emperor was not finished talking. "If you do not surrender in 72 hours, we will destroy every human in the galaxy. We will turn your planets to ash. We will kill every man, woman, and child. No human will be left alive to remember that your species ever existed. This is not a threat. This is a promise. Choose wisely." The hologram disappeared, and the room became completely quiet. Nobody spoke for a long time. Finally, Lisa Kane cleared her throat and stood up straight. "We need to discuss our options," she said in a voice that tried to sound calm. "Perhaps we can negotiate with them. Maybe we can offer them something they want more than complete surrender." General Clark slammed his hand on the table. "Negotiate? They just threatened to kill every human alive. We need to prepare for war. Right now." "War?" said Dr. Patel, the representative from India. "General, they have thousands of ships and we have barely 100. They have weapons we do not understand. This is not a fight we can win." "Then what do you suggest?" asked Jake. "That we just give up and become their slaves?" The room erupted in arguments. Some people wanted to evacuate Earth and hide in distant star systems. Others wanted to fight. A few suggested trying to make a deal with the Empire. Jake listened to all of them, but his mind was already made up. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stepped forward from her corner. She was a small woman with black hair and intelligent brown eyes. Most people in the room did not know much about her work because it was classified, but Jake knew. He knew exactly what Elena had been doing for the past 20 years. "If I may speak," Elena said, and the room became quiet again. "There are things about our situation that most of you do not know, things that might change how we respond to this ultimatum." Lisa Kane looked confused. "Dr. Rodriguez, what are you talking about?" Elena walked to the center of the room. I am the head of Project Prometheus. For 20 years, we have been preparing for exactly this moment. We knew that someday the Empire would try to force us to submit. We knew that peaceful coexistence was never going to be possible. What kind of preparation? Asked General Clark. Every human colony you think is peaceful is actually a military base, Elena said. Every mining station in the asteroid belt is actually a weapons platform. Every merchant ship we have sent to trade with aliens is actually a warship in disguise. For 20 years, we have been building the largest military force in human history, and we have kept it completely secret. The room was so quiet that Jake could hear people breathing. Elena continued speaking. The aliens think humans are weak because we are new to the galaxy. They think we will behave like all the other species they have conquered. They expect us to surrender when faced with superior numbers, but they do not understand humans at all. Jake stood up from his chair. He had been waiting for this moment for years. Dr. Rodriguez is right. While other species evolved by cooperating and submitting to stronger powers, humans evolved through constant warfare. We are the only species in the galaxy that became the top predator on our home planet. Every other intelligent species we have met were prey animals that learned to think. We are hunters that learned to think. So what are you suggesting? Asked Lisa Kane. Jake walked to the holographic projector and activated it. Instead of showing the Emperor, it now showed a display of the solar system. Red dots appeared throughout the asteroid belt, around Mars, and in the outer planets. Each red dot is a weapon system that the Empire does not know exists, Jake said. We have enough firepower hidden in our own solar system to destroy their entire invasion fleet. But more importantly, we have something they have never encountered before. We have humans. General Clark was starting to smile. You are talking about rejecting their ultimatum. I am talking about more than that, Jake replied. I am talking about showing the Caltharian Empire what happens when someone threatens humanity. Jake activated the communication system that would send a message directly to Emperor Vexathul. When the connection was established, he looked directly into the camera. Emperor Vexathul, Jake said in a clear, strong voice. We have received your ultimatum. We reject it completely. We will not surrender. We will not submit. We will not pay your taxes or follow your rules. If you want to destroy humanity, you are welcome to try. But understand this, we do not stop fighting until our enemies are dust. Come and take us if you can. Jake ended the transmission and turned back to the council. The room was completely silent for several seconds. Then General Clark started clapping. Soon everyone in the room was clapping except for a few people who looked terrified. So it is war, said Lisa Kane. No, Jake replied. War is when both sides have a chance to win. This is going to be an extermination. The only question is who gets exterminated. Captain Amy Watson stood on the bridge of the UNS Defiance and watched the enemy fleet approach through the main viewing screen. 300 Caltharian warships moved toward Earth in perfect formation. Each ship was twice the size of anything humans had ever built, or so the aliens thought. Their hulls gleamed silver in the sunlight, and their weapons glowed with blue energy. Amy had been waiting in the asteroid belt for 3 days since Admiral Morrison sent the rejection message to Emperor Vexthul. Her ship looked like nothing more than a large mining vessel from the outside. The Caltharians had scanned it dozens of times and dismissed it as harmless. They had no idea they were looking at the most powerful warship humanity had ever constructed. Captain, said Lieutenant Bobby Cruz from his position at the sensor station, the lead ships are entering weapon range. They are beginning to charge their main batteries. Amy nodded but did not take her eyes off the screen. All stations report readiness. Around the bridge, her crew called out their status. Every person on the Defiance had trained for this moment for years. They all knew that the next few minutes would determine whether humanity survived or died. Weapons ready, called out Commander Frank Stone from the weapon control station. Engines ready, said Lieutenant Karen Hall. Shields at maximum power. reported Ensign Dan Parker. Amy activated her communication system and sent a message to every hidden human position in the solar system. There were mining stations that were actually weapons platforms. There were small asteroids that were actually camouflaged warships. There were satellites around Jupiter and Saturn that contained enough missiles to destroy entire fleets. All units, this is Captain Watson aboard the Defiance. Execute Protocol 0. Show them what human warfare really means. The response was immediate and devastating. What the Caltharians thought was empty space suddenly filled with weapons fire. Railguns hidden inside hollowed-out asteroids began firing metal slugs at incredible speeds. Each projectile hit with the force of a nuclear bomb. The lead Caltharian ships simply vanished in brilliant flashes of light. Amy watched through the viewing screen as the enemy formation began to break apart. The aliens had never encountered kinetic weapons of this power. Their energy shields were designed to stop laser beams and plasma bolts, not solid metal moving at 20% of light speed. Direct hit on enemy flagship, reported Bobby Cruz. The ship has been completely destroyed. More weapons platforms revealed themselves throughout the asteroid belt. Missile launchers that had been disguised as mining equipment began firing. Each missile contained enough explosive power to crack a moon in half. The Caltharian ships tried to intercept the missiles with their defensive systems, but there were too many targets coming from too many directions. "Captain Watson," came a voice over the communication system. "This is Colonel Steve Martinez aboard the UNS Ranger. We are beginning our fighter attack now." Amy watched as hundreds of small ships launched from hidden bases throughout the solar system. The Caltharians expected to see the usual energy-based fighters that every other species used. Instead, they faced something completely different. Human fighters were heavily armored and carried nuclear missiles instead of energy weapons. They moved in unpredictable patterns and attacked from multiple directions at once. Colonel Martinez led the first wave personally. His fighter dove straight toward the largest Caltharian battleship, ignoring the energy beams that tried to shoot him down. At the last second, he fired 6 nuclear missiles and pulled away in a sharp turn. The missiles hit the alien ship's hull and exploded in sequence. The entire front section of the battleship disappeared in a ball of nuclear fire. "This is impossible," Amy heard over the alien communication frequencies that her ship was monitoring. "These humans fight like wild animals." The Caltharian fleet tried to regroup and fight back, but they had never faced tactics like this before. Other galactic species fought with honor and followed established rules of war. They announced their attacks and gave enemies time to surrender. Humans did none of these things. They struck without warning and showed no mercy. Amy decided it was time for the Defiance to reveal its true nature. "All hands, prepare for combat transformation." The outer hull of her ship began to move and change. Fake mining equipment folded away to reveal massive weapon systems. The ship's true size became apparent as hidden sections extended outward. What had looked like a simple mining vessel was actually a battleship larger than anything the Caltharians had brought to the fight. "Main batteries, target the enemy command ship," Amy ordered. The Defiance fired its primary weapons for the first time. Twin beams of pure energy lanced out across space and struck the Caltharian flagship. The alien ship's shields flared and then collapsed completely. The beams continued through the hull and out the other side. The flagship broke in half and exploded. "Enemy fleet is retreating," reported Bobby Cruz. "They are trying to escape the solar system." Amy smiled grimly. "Let some of them go. They need to report back to their emperor about what they found here." The battle lasted only 4 hours. When it was over, 267 Caltharian warships had been destroyed. Only 33 ships escaped, and most of those were badly damaged. Humanity had not lost a single vessel. On Earth, President Nathan Cross stood before the cameras to address not just his planet, but the entire galaxy. The message would be broadcast to every world in Caltharian space. Today, the Caltharian Empire learned something important about humanity, the president said. "We do not surrender. We do not negotiate from weakness. When someone threatens to exterminate us, we show them what extermination really looks like." The president paused and looked directly into the camera. "This was not our full strength. This was just our home defense force. The Empire has seen what happens when they attack us in our own system. If they want to continue this war, they will discover what happens when we bring the fight to them." Admiral Morrison stood beside the president and stepped forward to speak. "To every species in the galaxy that is watching this broadcast, understand this. Humanity seeks peace with all who offer it honestly. But we will completely destroy anyone who threatens our existence. The Caltharian Empire chose war. Now they will face the consequences." In the asteroid belt, Amy Watson received new orders from Fleet Command. Her ship and 50 others were to leave the solar system immediately and begin offensive operations against Empire targets. The war was moving to the next phase. "Set course for the Proxima system," Amy told her navigation officer. "It is time to show the galaxy what human starships can do in open space." As the human fleet prepared to leave their home system for the first time as a military force, communication intercepts revealed the panic spreading through Empire space. The surviving Caltharian ships had brought news that terrified their high command. Humanity was not like other species. They were something far more dangerous. Emperor Vexthul received the reports in his palace on the Caltharian homeworld. His advisors tried to explain how a primitive species had destroyed most of their invasion fleet. "They fight without honor," reported Admiral Kextar, one of the few commanders who had escaped the solar system battle. "They use weapons that ignore our shields. They attack from ambush and show no mercy to defeated enemies." "How many ships do they have?" asked the Emperor. "We do not know, Your Majesty. They may have thousands hidden throughout their territory. They have been preparing for war while pretending to be peaceful traders and miners." Emperor Vexthul stood up from his throne. For the first time in his long reign, he felt something he had not experienced before: uncertainty. Every other species the Empire had conquered had followed predictable patterns. They fought defensive battles and tried to negotiate when they started losing. Humans did neither. "Send word to all Imperial fleets," the Emperor commanded. "We will mobilize the full strength of the Empire. 10,000 ships. This human plague will be stopped before it spreads further." But even as he gave the order, Vexthul wondered if 10,000 ships would be enough. The humans had shown they were, not like other species. They were predators who had somehow learned to build starships, and now those predators were coming for him. Commander Beth Turner watched the tactical display in her command center as her fleet moved through hyperspace toward Kepler Station. The massive Caltharian shipyard was 300 light-years from Earth and represented the Empire's largest military construction facility. Intelligence reports indicated that over 2,000 enemy warships were being built there. Beth commanded the first human expeditionary force to leave the solar system. Her fleet consisted of 150 ships, but these were not the defensive platforms that had destroyed the Empire's invasion force. These were purpose-built warships designed to strike deep into enemy territory and return home safely. "Commander," said Captain Luke Harrison over the communication system, "we are receiving updated intelligence from our advanced scouts." Beth activated the holographic display that showed Kepler Station in detail. The facility was enormous, stretching across 50 kilometers of space. Defensive platforms surrounded it like a metal cloud. Over 500 Caltharian warships were docked at the station, with hundreds more patrolling the surrounding area. "It looks heavily defended," commented Major Helen Davis, Beth's tactical officer. "Good," Beth replied. "That means destroying it will hurt them badly." Dr. Elena Rodriguez joined the conversation from her laboratory ship. Even in the middle of a military operation, she continued her research into alien technology. Every enemy ship they captured provided new insights that human engineers could improve upon. "I have finished analyzing the Caltharian computer systems we captured in the solar system battle," Elena reported. "I believe we can turn their own technology against them." Beth was interested. "What do you mean?" Every Caltharian ship is connected to a central command network. They use this system to coordinate their fleets and share tactical information. But the system has a weakness. If we can introduce the right kind of computer virus, we can take control of their ships remotely. How long do you need to prepare? This virus? Asked Beth. It is already ready, Elena said with a smile. I have been working on it since we first encountered their technology. All I need is a way to upload it to their network. Beth studied the tactical display again. Captain Harrison, your ship has the best stealth systems in the fleet. Can you get close enough to the station to plant Dr. Rodriguez's virus? Luke Harrison's voice came back immediately. Consider it done, Commander. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system. Immediately, alarms began sounding on every Caltharian ship and station. The Empire had never seen human warships in their own territory before. All ships, commence attack, ordered Beth. What followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Human warships moved in patterns that seemed to defy physics. They appeared in one location, fired their weapons, and then vanished before the enemy could respond. The secret was humanity's mastery of short-range wormhole technology, something the Empire's scientists had declared impossible. Captain Harrison's destroyer, UNS Phantom, lived up to its name by becoming nearly invisible to enemy sensors. While the main fleet engaged the Caltharian defense forces, Harrison slipped past the defensive perimeter and approached the central station. Dr. Rodriguez, Harrison said over a secure channel, I am in position to upload your virus. Beginning. Transmission now, Elena replied. The virus spread through the Caltharian computer network faster than their technicians could respond. Within minutes, enemy ships began turning their weapons on each other. The highly organized Imperial fleet dissolved into chaos as ships fired on their own allies. Beth watched in satisfaction as the enemy formation collapsed. All ships, focus fire on the shipyard itself. I want nothing left but scrap metal. Human weapons technology proved devastatingly effective against Caltharian construction. While alien ships used energy-based weapons that took time to recharge, human ships fired solid projectiles that hit with incredible force. Railgun slugs punched through the station's hull like bullets through paper. The battle reached its climax when Captain Harrison made a decision that shocked everyone watching. His destroyer had taken heavy damage from enemy fire and was losing power. Instead of retreating, Harrison aimed his ship directly at the largest Caltharian battleship. All hands, abandon ship, Harrison ordered his crew. I'm going to ram the enemy flagship. Luke, no! Beth called over the radio. Pull back, and we will cover your retreat. Negative, Commander. This is the only way to break their defensive line. Harrison sealed himself alone on the bridge of his ship and accelerated toward the enemy battleship at maximum speed. At the last second, he activated his ship's self-destruct system. The collision and explosion destroyed not only the enemy flagship, but 3 other Caltharian ships that were too close to escape the blast. The destruction of their flagship broke the enemy's will to fight. The remaining Caltharian ships began retreating toward the outer system. But Beth was not finished with them. All ships, pursue and destroy, she ordered. I want none of them to escape. The chase lasted 6 hours as human ships hunted down fleeing enemies throughout the Kepler system. By the time it was over, the massive shipyard had been completely destroyed along with over 800 enemy vessels. The Empire's largest military construction facility was nothing but floating debris. Beth stood in her command center and looked at the tactical display showing the devastation. In one day, humanity had crippled the Empire's ability to build new warships. But more importantly, they had sent a message to every species in the galaxy. Dr. Rodriguez, Beth said, how many of their ships did we capture intact? 17, Elena replied. Enough to provide us with detailed information about their technology and military plans. Beth activated the fleet communication system. All ships, prepare to return to human space. We have accomplished our mission here. As the human fleet prepared to leave Kepler Station, they detected incoming transmissions from across the galaxy. News of the battle was spreading rapidly through the galactic communication network. Species that had been subjects of the Empire for centuries were asking the same question. If humans could defeat the Caltharians so easily, why should anyone fear the Empire anymore? On the Caltharian homeworld, Emperor Vexthul received the reports of the disaster at Kepler Station. His military advisors stood before his throne with their heads lowered in shame. "How many ships did we lose?" the Emperor asked, in a voice filled with rage. "Over 800, Your Majesty," replied Admiral Kickstar. "The humans destroyed our largest shipyard and captured several vessels intact. They will learn all our military secrets." "And how many human ships were destroyed?" "7, Your Majesty." The Emperor was silent for a long time. The mathematics were simple and terrifying. The humans had destroyed over 800 Imperial ships while losing only 7 of their own. At this rate, the Empire's entire military would be eliminated within months. "Your Majesty," said one of his advisors carefully, "perhaps we should consider negotiating with the humans. We could offer them territory or tribute in exchange for peace." Emperor Vexthul turned toward the advisor with his yellow eyes blazing. "Never! The Empire does not negotiate with inferior species. We will mobilize every ship and every soldier we have. We will recruit our subject species to fight alongside us. The human plague will be stopped." But even as he spoke, the Emperor knew that something fundamental had changed. For the first time in the Empire's history, they were fighting an enemy that seemed to grow stronger with each battle. The humans were not just winning. They were learning and adapting faster than anyone thought possible. In her laboratory aboard the Fleet Command ship, Dr. Rodriguez worked feverishly to analyze the captured Caltharian technology. Each enemy vessel provided new insights that human engineers could incorporate into their own designs. Within weeks, human shipyards throughout their territory were producing hybrid warships that combined the best of both technologies. The galaxy watched in amazement and terror as humanity demonstrated something no other species had ever shown: the ability to not just defeat their enemies, but to continuously improve their military capabilities during an active war. Every battle made the human fleet stronger and more dangerous. Beth Turner's expeditionary force returned to human space as heroes, but their work was far from finished. Intelligence reports indicated that the Empire was mobilizing the largest military force in galactic history. 10,000 warships from dozens of subject species were gathering for a massive counterattack against humanity. "Let them come," Beth said to her assembled captains as they prepared for the next phase of the war. "They still do not understand what they are fighting against. We are not just another species they can conquer. We are humans, and we do not stop until our enemies are dust." Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the communications center aboard the UNS Vengeance and read the report that had just arrived from New Geneva Colony. His hands shook as he processed the words on the screen. 3 million civilians dead. The entire colony turned to ash. Among the casualties was his own daughter, Linda Morrison, who had been teaching at the colony's university. The Empire's response to humanity's victories had been swift and brutal. Unable to defeat human military forces in direct combat, they had begun systematically targeting civilian populations. 12 human colonies had been destroyed in the past month. The message was clear: surrender or watch your people die. "Sir," said Captain Sandra Price, Morrison's tactical officer, "we are receiving similar reports from the Centauri system. The Empire has destroyed 3 more colonies there." Morrison closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When he opened them, again his expression had changed. The diplomacy and restraint that had marked the early phase of the war were gone. In their place was something cold and terrible. "Open a channel to all human forces throughout the galaxy," Morrison ordered. "I want this broadcast on every frequency." The communication system activated, and Morrison looked directly into the camera. His voice was calm, but carried an undertone that made everyone who heard it feel afraid. "This is Admiral Morrison speaking to all human military personnel. The Caltharian Empire has chosen to target our civilian populations. They believe that by killing our families, they can break our will to fight. They are about to learn how wrong they are." Morrison paused, and his expression became even colder. "As of this moment, we are no longer fighting a war with rules. We are fighting for the survival of our species. Any Caltharian military installation, supply depot, communication station, or government facility is now a legitimate target. We will systematically destroy their ability to wage war until they surrender unconditionally or cease to exist." The Admiral ended the transmission and turned to his staff. "Captain Price, what is the status of our deep strike capabilities?" "Sandra." Price consulted her datapad. "We have 200 ships equipped with the new wormhole drive systems. They can appear anywhere in Empire space within hours." "Dr. Rodriguez," Morrison called to the chief scientist who was monitoring the conversation from her laboratory. "How many of those computer viruses do you have ready?" "Enough to infect every major Caltharian computer system in the galaxy," Elena replied. "But Admiral, if we use them all at once, we will completely destroy their technological infrastructure. Billions of beings depend on those systems for basic survival." Morrison's expression did not change. "They should have thought of that before they started killing our children." The campaign that followed became known throughout the galaxy as the Human Fury. Unlike the previous battles that had targeted military installations, this new phase of the war aimed to completely destroy the Empire's ability to function as a civilization. Captain Price led Squadron 7 on a mission to the Vega system, home to the Empire's primary communication hub. Her ships appeared without warning, and within minutes had reduced the massive facility to floating debris. Without their communication network, Imperial forces throughout the galaxy lost the ability to coordinate their operations. Major Tony Baker commanded a strike force that hit 17 different supply depots in a single day. Using wormhole technology, his ships would appear in a system, destroy everything of military value, and vanish before enemy reinforcements could arrive. The Empire's logistics network began to collapse as their forces ran out of fuel, ammunition, and spare parts. But the most devastating attacks came from Dr. Rodriguez's computer viruses. The Caltharian Empire depended on automated systems to manage everything from power plants to food distribution networks. When Elena's viruses infected these systems, entire worlds began to experience catastrophic failures. "Admiral," reported Lieutenant Carl Johnson from the intelligence section. "We are intercepting communications from across Empire space. Their subject species are beginning to rebel. Without Imperial forces to maintain order, several worlds have declared independence." Morrison nodded with satisfaction. "Good. Fear kept their empire together. Without the ability to project military power, they have nothing left." The turning point came when human forces attacked the fortress world of Draconis Prime. The planet served as the Empire's primary military academy and training center. Over 2 million Caltharian soldiers were stationed there, making it one of the most heavily defended worlds in their territory. General Ryan Clark led the assault personally. His invasion force consisted of 50,000 human Marines equipped with the latest weapons and armor. The battle for Draconis Prime lasted 3 days and became a demonstration of human military doctrine at its most brutal. Unlike other galactic species that fought with honor and avoided civilian casualties, humans made no distinction between military and civilian targets when their own survival was at stake. The entire planet was declared a legitimate military target. Cities that housed Imperial officials were bombed. Industrial facilities that produced weapons were destroyed. Communication centers that coordinated enemy operations were eliminated. "General Clark," came a transmission from the planet's surface. "This is Governor Velthar. We wish to surrender and negotiate terms." Clark's response was broadcast to the entire planet. "There are no terms. There is no negotiation. You chose to make war on humanity. Now you face the consequences. The battle ended when human forces captured the planetary capital and executed every Imperial official they found there. The message spread throughout the galaxy. Humanity no longer took prisoners from species that targeted their civilians. Emperor Vexthul watched the reports from Draconis Prime in his palace on Calthar. Prime. For the first time in his reign, he was afraid. The humans had done something no other species in galactic history had ever accomplished. They had made the Empire afraid of them. "Your Majesty," said his chief advisor carefully, "perhaps we should reconsider our strategy. The humans are not fighting like any species we have encountered before." "What do you mean?" asked the Emperor. "They do not fight to conquer territory or gain resources. They fight to completely destroy their enemies. Every action they take is designed to eliminate our ability to threaten them ever again." The Emperor stood up from his throne and walked to the large window that overlooked his capital city. In the distance, he could see the construction sites where workers were building massive defensive installations. But he knew that walls and shields would not stop the humans. They had already demonstrated the ability to appear anywhere in Imperial space without warning. "How many worlds have we lost?" he asked quietly. 47 planets have declared independence from the Empire. Another 32 have gone silent, and we believe they have been occupied by human forces. Our military has lost over 3,000 ships in the past month alone. Emperor Vexthul closed his eyes. The mathematics were simple and terrifying. At the current rate of loss, the Caltharian Empire would cease to exist within 6 months. But surrender was not an option. His species had ruled the galaxy for over 2,000 years. They could not simply give up now. "Send word to all remaining Imperial forces," the Emperor commanded. "We will make one final stand at Calthar Prime itself. If the humans want to destroy the Empire, they will have to face us at our strongest point." But even as he gave the order, Vexthul knew that the war was already lost. The humans had demonstrated something that no Imperial strategist had thought possible: the ability to fight a war of complete annihilation against a vastly superior force and win. On Earth, President Nathan Cross received daily reports of the campaign's progress. The systematic destruction of the Caltharian Empire was proceeding ahead of schedule, but he also received reports of the cost. 38 human colonies had been destroyed before Imperial forces lost the ability to mount offensive operations. Over 15 million human civilians were dead. "Mr. President," said his chief of staff, "some members of Congress are questioning whether our response has been proportional to the threat." Cross looked at the man with cold eyes. "Proportional? They tried to exterminate our entire species. Our response is exactly proportional to that threat." Admiral Morrison appeared on the communication screen from his flagship. "Mr. President, we are ready to begin the final phase of operations. Our fleets are in position to attack Calthar Prime itself." "Proceed, Admiral," Cross replied. "End this war." As human forces prepared for the final assault on the Empire's homeworld, intercepted communications revealed the panic spreading through Caltharian space. Species that had been subjects of the Empire for centuries were asking themselves a simple question. If the mighty Caltharians could be defeated so completely by humans, what did that say about human military capabilities? The answer was becoming clear to everyone in the galaxy. Humanity was not just another species with advanced technology. They were something far more dangerous, a species that would fight to complete extinction rather than accept defeat or subjugation. And they had the military capability to make that threat real. The final battle for Calthar Prime began at dawn on the capital world of the Caltharian Empire. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship UNS Retribution and watched as 15,000 human warships dropped out of hyperspace around the enemy homeworld. It was the largest military force humanity had ever assembled, and its purpose was simple: the complete destruction of the Caltharian Empire. "Admiral," reported Captain Sandra Price from her position at the tactical station. Enemy forces are moving to intercept us. I count over 8,000 Imperial ships plus defensive platforms around the planet. Morrison nodded. The Empire had gathered every remaining warship for this final confrontation. Emperor Vex Thul had made Calthar Prime into the most heavily defended world in galactic history. Massive orbital fortresses surrounded the planet like a steel ring. Energy shields covered entire continents. Millions of soldiers waited in underground bunkers. "Open a channel to all human forces," Morrison ordered. The communication system activated, and Morrison's voice reached every ship in the human fleet. "Today, we end this war. The Caltharian Empire chose to threaten humanity with extinction. They killed our civilians and destroyed our colonies. Now they will face the consequences of that choice." Morrison paused and looked at the image of Calthar Prime on his main screen. The planet looked beautiful from space, with blue oceans and green continents. But he felt no sympathy for the billions of beings living there. "All ships, commence final assault. I want nothing left of their military capability. Nothing left of their government. Nothing left of their empire." The human fleet attacked from every direction at once. Ships equipped with wormhole drives appeared inside the defensive perimeter without warning. Massive battleships fired weapons that could crack planets. Fighter squadrons launched nuclear attacks against orbital installations. Captain Amy Watson commanded the heavy assault group that targeted the orbital fortresses. Her ship UNS Defiance had been upgraded with captured Caltharian technology and now carried enough firepower to destroy entire fleets. The ancient defensive stations that had protected Calthar Prime for centuries were reduced to scrap metal within the first hour of battle. "Admiral Morrison," Watson reported over the communication system. "Orbital defenses are eliminated. We have clear approach to the planet's surface." But the Empire was not finished fighting. From hidden bases throughout the system came the last of their mobile forces. Caltharian ships that had survived the previous battles appeared from behind moons and asteroids. They fought with desperate courage, knowing that this was their final chance to save their civilization. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched the battle from her laboratory ship and continued her work even as weapons fire lit up the space around her. She had spent months analyzing every aspect of Caltharian technology and culture. Now she was putting that knowledge to use in the most devastating way possible. "Admiral," Elena reported, "I am ready to deploy the final virus. This one will completely shut down their planetary infrastructure. Power grids, communication networks, transportation systems, everything will fail simultaneously." "Do it," Morrison replied without hesitation. Elena's virus spread through the Caltharian computer networks like digital fire. Within minutes, the lights began going out on Calthar Prime. Cities that had stood for thousands of years went dark. The complex systems that supported billions of lives began failing one by one. Colonel Steve Martinez led the ground assault on the Imperial Palace itself. His Marine force landed on the planet's surface, while the space battle continued overhead. The Caltharian military tried to stop them, but human ground forces fought with the same ruthless efficiency that had characterized the entire war. "All resistance is collapsing," Martinez reported as his troops advanced through the capital city. "The enemy forces are surrendering or retreating. We should reach the palace within the hour." Emperor Vexthul stood in his throne room and watched through the windows as human ships filled the sky above his world. His advisors had fled or committed suicide rather than face capture. His military commanders had stopped reporting in. The great Caltharian Empire was dying around him. A communication signal reached the palace. Emperor Vexthul activated the receiver and found himself looking at Admiral Morrison's face on the screen. "Emperor," Morrison said in a voice devoid of emotion, "your military forces have been destroyed. Your planet is under our control. I am prepared to discuss terms for your surrender." Vexthul drew himself up to his full height. Even facing complete defeat, his pride would not allow him to beg. What terms do you offer? Unconditional surrender of all Imperial forces, complete dismantling of your government, trial and execution of all Imperial officials responsible for war crimes against human civilians, permanent human oversight of all former Imperial territories. The Emperor's yellow eyes blazed with anger. Those are not terms of surrender. That is the complete destruction of my civilization. Morrison's expression did not change. Yes, that is exactly what it is. You cannot be serious. There are billions of innocent beings on this world alone. You would condemn them all to death? You should have thought of that before you tried to exterminate humanity, Morrison replied. You chose total war. Now you face total defeat. Emperor. Vexthul closed the communication channel and walked to the window. In the distance, he could see human troops advancing through his capital city. Buildings that had stood since before humanity discovered fire were burning. The greatest empire in galactic history was ending not with glory, but with ashes. Colonel Martinez and his Marines reached the Imperial Palace just as the sun was setting on Calthar Prime. They found Emperor Vexthul waiting for them in his throne room, sitting alone on the seat of power that his family had occupied for generations. I am Colonel Martinez of the United Human Forces, Steve announced as his troops surrounded the Emperor. By the authority of the Human Federation, I place you under arrest for crimes against humanity. Vexthul looked at the human soldier with something approaching respect. You have won, Colonel. Your species has accomplished what no other in galactic history has done. You have completely destroyed an interstellar empire. Martinez nodded. We warned you. We told you what would happen if you threatened us. You chose not to listen. What will become of my people? Asked the Emperor. That depends on them, Martinez replied. Those who accept human authority and renounce all loyalty to your empire will be allowed to live. Those who resist will share your fate. As the Emperor was led away in chains, Admiral Morrison's fleet began the systematic destruction of everything connected to Imperial power. Government buildings were bombed, military installations were eliminated. Even the symbols and monuments of Imperial rule were destroyed. The war officially ended when the last Caltharian military unit surrendered 3 days after the fall of their capital. In 6 months of fighting, humanity had completely destroyed an empire that had ruled the galaxy for over 2,000 years. The final casualty count was staggering. Over 5 million human civilians dead, but more than 2 billion Imperial military personnel eliminated. President Nathan Cross addressed the galaxy from the ruins of the Imperial Palace on Calthar Prime. Representatives of hundreds of species watched as he spoke. Let this be a lesson to every civilization in the galaxy, Cross said. Humanity seeks peaceful coexistence with all species. We want to trade, explore, and learn from our neighbors. But we will never again tolerate threats to our existence. The president paused and looked directly into the camera. The Caltharian Empire chose to threaten us with extinction. They discovered that humans do not surrender, do not negotiate from weakness, and do not stop fighting until our enemies are dust. Their empire is gone. Their military is destroyed. Their government has ceased to exist. We now establish the Terran Federation, an alliance of species that choose cooperation over conquest. Membership is voluntary, but our protection comes with a price: absolute commitment to peaceful coexistence. Any species that threatens another member of the Federation will face the same fate as the Caltharian Empire. Admiral Morrison appeared beside the president to make one final announcement. To any species in the galaxy that might consider following the Empire's example, remember what you have seen here. Remember that humanity kept its promise. We said we would not stop until our enemies were dust. Calthar Prime is dust. The Imperial fleet is dust. The Empire itself is dust. We offered them peace, and they chose war. We offered them coexistence, and they chose domination. We offered them mercy, and they chose genocide. The choice was theirs, and so was the consequence. In the months that followed, the galaxy began to adapt to a new reality. Hundreds of species that had been subjects of the Empire declared their independence and requested membership in the human-led Federation. Trade routes that had been controlled by Imperial forces reopened under human protection. Pirates and raiders who had operated freely in Imperial space discovered that human patrol ships showed no mercy to those who preyed on peaceful travelers. Dr. Elena Rodriguez established research stations throughout former Imperial territory, studying alien technology and sharing discoveries with Federation members. But she also continued developing new weapon systems, because everyone understood that somewhere,